Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Hilaal Live. Thanks for watching us on channel 347. Also on our live stream, www.hilaal.tv. A couple of weeks, couple of days away from the elections, and we thought we'll invite a few political parties into studio to give us an update, a campaign update, but more importantly, create an awareness on what we as a voter should do at the polls come the 29th. In studio first, I'd like to welcome attorney Ighsaan Higgins. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. How are you?
Alhamdulillah.
And salam to all the listeners.
Jazakallah so much for affording us your time. And then also from the Al Jama'ah party, Fairuz Nagia. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah, and the same to our listeners.
Jazakallah so much for taking the time to come into a studio. I know it's a busy time for everyone during the next couple of weeks as well. But I thought, one of the important topics, and since we had such a bad turnout during the last voter or the last elections, voters didn't come out in their drones, and we're hoping this one is a lot better, Ighsaan, is voter education needs to be highlighted. Our public needs to be made aware of what to look for when going to the polls.
Yeah, shukran for that, Luqman. I think, yes, it's we've heard all the political parties, we've seen them in debates, we've heard them on TV, we've heard them on radio stations. And the only rhetoric we hear is about their policies and their, of course, it's a marketing process.
Sure.
So they need to market their proposed services. Mm-hmm. But I think what's more important at this point in time is for voters to understand what happens on election day.
For sure.
There's no point in voters not knowing what to expect when they go to the polls. Mm-hmm. So historically, South Africa, of course, the majority of people in South Africa never had the vote.
For sure.
So, of course, only white people had the vote prior to 1994. Mm-hmm. So, of course, during 1992 and 1993, right up to April in 1994, there was an extensive voter education campaign nationally. Mm. And I was part of that process through Project Vote, and we obviously did it through various government entities and NGOs that time. But what I've seen is there's been a decline in voter education. And as you rightfully say, there has been a lot of voter apathy in the last election. Also, young people have not come out to vote.
Of course.
Because a lot of people in South Africa, they think that election day is a public holiday. It's a time now to go chill and go to the beach, and while it's winter now, so they're going to do other stuff. But the reality is that it's incumbent upon political parties to tell voters what to expect. How many ballot papers are there? What ID documents do you require when you go into the polls on voter education day? But I would like maybe for the politician or the aspiring politician to maybe give us that information today.
Sure. Fairuz, have your party, has Al Jama'ah gone out and done an exercise like that?
Absolutely. So we've been using social media to educate people. It's more than just, and I agree that we have seen this decline, and it's about voter apathy. It's also about cynicism that we see. This elections is different because we do have those additional processes in place. So there is this concern that people are going to get to the polls and be entirely confused about what's happening, and word of mouth will also spread. So we've been having our social media drive, speaking to communities at every event that we've had as well, our public events, around what to expect. That, of course, being the 3-ballot process, where we have the provincial legislature, we have the regional ballot, which looks at the NCOP, and, of course, the national, which is the National Assembly ballot. Also, many parties to go through on those lists. So it's quite important to understand what to expect when we do hit the polls. To look at the issue of what you will require to go there. Now, I know there's lots of people overseas as well who's there with passports but without the IDs, and they are unable to vote. So the same applies here as well. You're going to need your green barcoded ID, and you're going to need your smart card when you do go and vote.
It's a
either or.
Either or, correct. So you need either one of those. Or you can get your temp IDs from Home Affairs.
Gotcha.
So those are processes that are quite important to bear in mind.
So on the campaign trail, when you were visiting various communities, were there any interesting questions that came up about how to vote, where to vote, what to look out for, What was the concerns from the community at the moment?
Look, I don't think that people have actually grasped what this procedure means. We are experiential, so I think people will only really understand what complexities need to be navigated when they get to those booths to see, and then they can actually understand, what's before them. So largely, the engagements that we've had are still around people's pressing concerns that they are having in their communities. But yes, equally important, procedurally, people need to be empowered. They need to know what to expect.
Of course.
Yeah, so I think I understand what Fairuz is saying about people having to go to the polls and doing an experience, but I think they must prepare themselves. You can't go to the polls and then look through that list of 50 parties. You must know who you're going to vote for before that.
Right.
Know which party you're going to vote for, and when you get there, look for it, vote.
So the onus is upon our community to do as much research, investigation, and know what works for them in their sphere of life.
And if they don't have their smart card or they don't have their green barcoded ID, go to Home Affairs now already. Don't wait till election day.
I agree.
Chances are they are going to be open on that day, but chances are the queues are going to be heavy.
Of course. We've got so much to talk about, and I want to move to our next point, which is involving and maybe bringing in our ulama, especially with a party like Al-Jamaa, which largely maintains an Islamic ethos. Has the ulama been instrumental in advocating for Al-Jamaa?
Look, in Al-Jamaa, we've got 3 members of the ulama who are our candidates on our ballot forms. So from that perspective, they are networked and they are linked to the ulama constituencies. But just to say broadly, it's quite a different. You have various experiences across the ulama. So you have those who are extremely apathetic. It's like the state and religion does not mix. So they will even tell people not to vote. We also have people who will back parties whose policies are questionable, whose policies and laws have actually acted to the detriment of our communities. And those actions are really based on old allegiances, emotional allegiances around that. And I think that needs to be interrogated because when you're part of the ulama, you need to interrogate why are you actually endorsing any particular party. So if we as Muslims speak against oppressive policies and oppressive systems and parties which advocate that, I think there's a duty to do that. So there's a duty to point that out. But when we make endorsements, what are we actually saying? So what control do you have? If you say, vote for this particular party, do you have an influence over how that party legislates? And what if they act against the Muslim community? Can you guarantee that you're going to influence to prevent that from happening? And if you can't, you're going to be responsible. My view, you are responsible for the outcomes.
What's your take on that, Ighsaan?
I think I've got a very simple take on it. I think members of the ulama are let's call it the leaders of the Muslim community. And I think they must be extremely responsible before they get onto a podium and endorse a particular party, whether they do it covertly or overtly. I think their first responsibility is to the community, and they cannot actually be coaxed into parties.
I agree.
And say to the community that this is the party or that is the party. I think they should be way above party politics. I think they have a certain role in society and they must fulfill that role. And that is to be people of the cloth and not be politicians at the same time.
Good point. Fairuz, you wear the Palestinian flag proudly as well, today being Nakba Day as well. It's one of those bittersweet moments because we are going through a Nakba at the moment in Palestine. What are your thoughts on this very special day?
On days like this, I think the pain that communities feel it's amplified. We've felt it, we've seen it, over the past few months. And when it comes to days like this, it kind of creates this sense of this is real, this is happening now. We could historically speak about the Nakba when it happened, so many decades ago. But when we actually are in this, I think it should become real. And I think people should also become more conscientized and alive to what we are doing and what our responsibilities are, especially on days like this. So we should we're talking about agitating. We headed into elections, and how do all of these ideas merge, and how do all of these instances merge? You've got a responsibility to hold your governments accountable. Remember that always when it comes to advocating for the Palestinian cause. As citizens, you've got the right to boycott businesses. You've got use your social media platforms. Today it should be just a reminder, but we should remember every single day.
Absolutely.
We are in a Nakba every single day until it ends, until we see a ceasefire and we see a free Palestine. It is Nakba Day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ighsaan, you've been an activist for many, many years as well, and this draws close to your heart.
No, of course, yeah. The Palestinian issue will always be close to our hearts. It's Nakba Day, yes, and but I think for South Africans and the challenges and the tasks they undertook for the Palestinians, I think they felt Nakba every single day since the war started. I'm talking about after the 7th of October.
Sure.
But I think people should come out in the numbers whenever there's an opportunity for any form of Palestinian protest. In fact, it is Nakba Day at the castle on Saturday, Castle of Good Hope.
Right.
And we invite all Cape Town Muslims, even Joburg Muslims, or Durban Muslims, to come to the Castle of Good Hope on Saturday to observe the Nakba Day in collaboration with all other NGOs that's involved. And of course, we give our trust and our hope that the war will end,
Inshallah.
and everything will get to a point where the Palestinians will get their freedom, inshallah.
Inshallah. Ighsaan and Fairuz, Jazakallah so much. All the very best with the upcoming elections, and we will keep our ear to the ground and invite you back into studio closer to the time, inshallah, as well.
Inshallah.
Have a great evening. Assalamu alaikum. First part of Hilaal Live. When we come back, we chat a bit more about voter education. Thanks for watching us on Channel 347.